Monterey Peninsula, an appealing part of Central California, has an array of sights to see, including Cannery Row. This Pacific coastline, famously painted into American literature by John Steinbeck, is for us enhanced by the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna, Seca and Ferrari Racing Days. The second round of the Ferrari Challenge North America embraced this undulating racing circuit, widely anticipated by the fans and the teams. The drivers will deliver when they take to the tarmac, and at the end of the weekend, those that are victorious will have earned their accolades. Forza Ferrari. Welcome back to Laguna Seca, then, the scene of Ferrari Racing Days here in California. It is race 2 for the 488 cars that we will see out on track very, very shortly. In fact, as we talk about them, there they appear out of the assembly area and onto the pit lane. The 488 Challenge Evos, of course, which formed such a fantastic part of the Ferrari Challenge history. For 2024 here in North America, we kicked off the season in Texas, then we're here in California before we head off to support Formula One in Canada. Then it's Watkins Glen International Sonoma Raceway. Then for round 5, round 6 is Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and round 7 in the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy at Imola for Finale Mondiale, right in the middle of October. So Laguna Seca Raceway then for this round 2. Bathed in sunshine when those photographs were taken, and this circuit that winds its way through the topography of the Californian area, made up of some 11 turns. Not a moment to relax, and of course the corkscrew is the most famed turn 8 and 8A. On this extraordinary track. The track temperature is 25 degrees, the air temperature is 17 degrees, 58% humidity and a little bit of a breeze around 21 kilometers per hour, which has just taken the edge off the reasonable temperature, I have to say. The car's assembling then, as you can see, in the pit lane, ready to go out and make their way onto this Laguna Seca Raceway. And down there, enjoying the what little sunshine benefit there is, because the wind seems to take it away, it's Shay Adam. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dave. Yeah, it's not terrible conditions down here. It is warming up ever so slightly, but it is perfect weather for Ferrari racing. And I want to draw our attention back to the shell category, because we have a car starting on pole with Gregory Hopkins. Let's see if it is in line yet. Yes, it is. The purple and yellow one back there, number 113. The reason I want to draw attention to that car is because that livery has already found victory lane today. Earlier in the day, in the Copa Shell race, Roy Carroll took the Be Safe storage car to victory lane. Gregory Hopkins, his son-in-law, is now going out to try and do the same. So it's a nice bit of family camaraderie going on there. But we have an interesting battle developing, because in that shell category, we've had different winners through each of the races. Matt Dalton ultimately getting the victory yesterday. We had Gerdas Veneslovas getting victory at Circuit of the Americas as well. Who's it going to be today? Could it maybe be our pole sitter, Gregory? Or could it be one of the other 15 cars in the category? Only time will tell.
Very fair point and very well made, if I may say. Gregory Hopkins going for a pole position within class for the Shell drivers then. Shay is a part of our presentation team, and alongside me is Ferrari ambassador Tony Vilander, and we've seen some excellent racing over the course of this weekend, and our final race in this round 2 of our 2024 calendar falls to the 488 drivers, the mix of Pirelli and Shell drivers. It's a big grid of cars and it's a tricky track.
Yes, it is. We've seen a lot of action from the 296 Challenge car, a brand new car that was presented and seen in action for the first time in Coda a couple of weeks ago in the opening race of the season. Obviously 488 Challenge Evo has a strong background, a lot of history, great drivers that have developed through 488 Challenge races. Mentioning one driver, Niklas Nielsen, winning the finals and then going through the ranks of GT racing, did some racing in prototypes, and now he's official driver in Ferrari LMH program. So 488 also being a great platform with drivers developing, getting that experience and going up and forward in their career. So this is a great car, and we've seen some good racing. What a young talent is this Pirelli driver Massimo Perina. The performance has just been incredible, like lap time wise, half a second to a second faster than anybody else. So what will the future bring for this young talent? And very determined, precise, and a lot of self-confidence when we hear the interviews he's having with Shea. So interesting driver to follow, Massimo Perina in a car number 26.
Thank you, Tony. And you make a very good point about how the Ferrari Challenge over the years has really become something of a development series for a number of young drivers. Springs to mind Niklas Nielsen, obviously, who you mentioned, but Thomas Neubauer himself from the Ferrari Challenge has just become a factory driver with Ferrari and GT campaigns as well. So, yes, and when you see a young talent like Massimo Perina, who's able to mix it up with some of the, dare I say it, more gentleman drivers that are out there as well, I mean, he's got a much older head on his shoulders than you would necessarily expect from such a young man. You make the point of the confidence that he brings, and does a very good job indeed, and has been blisteringly quick. Another driver that's also blisteringly quick and driving in two categories this weekend, Jason McCarthy. Now, he didn't have the rub of the green in the 296 in race 2 today. He'll be hoping to right the wrongs of that with this 488 Challenge Evo, because he'll be starting from P2, but he knows better than anybody else, once Massimo Perina, if he converts pole position into P1, well, he disappears up the road like a snake, doesn't he?
Yeah, it is true. McCarthy, for sure, is a really talented driver, but a bit surprised about the ups and downs. There's not super consistency on the performance level. He can do a super qualifying and then struggle in the race, or the other way around. What really impresses me in Massimo Perina is that he has that consistency. He's strong in qualifying, on slicks, on drain tires. He has those race starts under control, even the restarts, everything. So there's a little bit of difference between these two drivers, and it's interesting to see, having done a lot of races this weekend, Jason McCarthy, is he already a bit tired? What happened in that race with 296? Or does he want to bounce back, put that 296 race behind, and really go for the glory, go for the P1 in here for 88 race, the last race of the weekend?
I'm sure you're right. Logan Broughton, the Ferrari of Lake Forest driver, driving the all-white 488 Challenge Evo that we can see there. We saw just momentarily the Ferrari of Ontario driver, Mark Musso, who qualified P3. Pole position went the way of Massimo Perina, and for the Shell drivers, Gregory Hopkins then, who sealed that ahead of Guido Savan Slovis. So there is doubtless a lot of talent throughout the pack here of a mix of Pirelli and AM drivers, Pirelli and Shell drivers, I should say. The Pirelli drivers have the red strip across the top of the windscreen, like that of the Massimo Perina car that you see right now. And then the Shell drivers have the yellow strip across the top of the windscreen. That's how you can identify the different categories within the 488 Challenge Evo race that we are about to see. 30 minutes of racing action, plus one lap to come from this big grid of cars. Very much looking forward to it. The final race, as you say, of the Ferrari Racing Days, which means that not only have the challenge cars been out on track in both 488 and, of course, the all-new 296, we've also seen the XX programs, the F1 Clienti, Club Competizione GT as well. There has been so much going on. It's been a packed weekend of great Ferrari action. And before we can get racing underway, we need the words of magic to come from Shea Adam.
For the last time for Ferrari Racing Days, Ferrari drivers, start your engines.
And on that note, they do. Your wish is my command, Shea Adam. So there we can see the Jason McCarthy car, then the Wide World Ferrari driver, driving this 488 Challenge Evo, and it's quite a trick to jump from the 296 into the 488 Challenge Evos, because the cars are very different, that's for sure. But Jason seems to make a reasonable fist of that. He's a driver that you can never ever discount, and he's going from P2. Will he be able to get the better of Massimo Perino going into the first sequence of turns? Well, we're going to find out very, very soon. Of course, the Richard Mille safety car will lead the cars away on a formation lap. It's always a rolling start in the Ferrari Challenge, and the cars will head off side by side. Initially behind the safety car, which will peel off into the pit lane. Then it will be the responsibility of Massimo Perino and Jason McCarthy to control the pace of the rolling start. You can see the elaborate paddock to the right-hand side of your screen here, and fantastic hospitality that is afforded to us all as well as part of the Ferrari Challenge weekend as we get the formation lap underway. Ferrari Racing Days here in California has been a huge success. And who will be successful when it comes to the 488 race to come? Well, their race 2 is about to get underway. So we're standing by to bring you the grid in full. And Tony and myself will try and bring you all the action in the race that will come from the likes of Massimo Perino and Jason McCarthy, who are going from P1 and P2. P3 is Mark Musso, and Logan Broughton is alongside, going from P4 to the third row of the grid, where we find Brad Falver and Michael Porter. They are P5 and P6 respectively. On to row 4 of our 488 starting grid, where we find Omar Balkasoon and Frank Szczesniak. And then to row 5, where we find Jos Posado and Eric Pan. They go from P9 and P10. Bruce Cleveland is going from P11. He, another driver that's driving in both categories this weekend, and alongside him is Gregory Hopkins, our pole sitter for Shell drivers, ahead of Gerda Svetslovas and Matthew Dalton. And then on to row 8, where Henry Hummel goes from P15 and Richard Pineda goes from P16. He had a great time of it yesterday. Right, to the 9th row of the grid, Mitchell Green and Enoch Hurd, then are going from P17 and P18. It's a big grid of cars, I told you that. And Brad Evans and Joel Rosenbach are going from P19 and P20. On to the 11th row of our grid now, and it's Dan Magnuszewski and Stephen Chen. They are P21 and P22. On to row 12, where it's Ben Gudensi and Lance Corley. Great to see Lance Corley back racing in the Ferrari Challenge once again. He goes from P24, ahead of Steve Blevett and Louis Peruskia. And on row 14 of the grid, and making up the 27 starters in this Ferrari Challenge race, is Jeffrey Gill. That's the way it looks then for Ferrari Challenge 488 race here in Laguna Seca. It is race 2 of the weekend for these drivers, and our last race of the Ferrari Racing Days before some of the other eclectic cars from Racing Days get out on track. But for a competitive race action, this is the final one. We split the screen so you can see the cars approaching the final turn, which is where they're heading right now. And you can see that the Richard Mille safety car is headed off into the pit lane. The responsibility of Massimo Perino and Jason McCarthy then to control the pace of this rolling start then. All eyes on the rostrum, which holds the official starter, who of course will wave the green flag, as is done right now. And let's go racing. A good start from Massimo Perino, and a good start also from Mark Musso. If he can get right to the inside, there's just a potential to get by Jason McCarthy, but he's not close enough to be able to do so. So it is Perino leading, and Perino goes through and will start his quest to get as high up the order or bigger, make as big a margin as he possibly can. And Mark Musso then losing out right at the start of the race, and another car has gone around, well picked up, Tony Verlander. That car does right itself. You can see right at the bottom of the screen. Let's get it in replay here then. No, we pick the cars up live now. It is Perino from McCarthy, then it is Musso and Logan Broughton ahead of Brad Falver and Michael Porter. That was the car that went around, Tony, and you picked that up very, very quickly indeed. And that was the car of Matthew Dalton. A real disadvantage for Matthew Dalton. Let's see in replay then.
Yeah, he was really wide on the outside and just ran out of tarmac, basically, trying to avoid other cars, 3-4 cars side by side, and he chose, like I said, very wide line through turn 2, and that cost him it at the exit of the corner.
What a shame, but he will come back, that's for sure. He's got the car pointing in the right direction once again, and he'll be able to continue the race, but from a lowly position in comparison to where he was. Of course, he was starting P3, and you can see that Jason McCarthy, who, once again, he always delivers in terms of entertaining and not necessarily following the textbook lines, Tony. He'll try when nowhere else will dare try, and that's precisely what he does. As Michael Corner's gone past Brad Falver, I note, and well, we can see that from our timing screen that Bruce Cleveland is dropping down the order as well, sad to say. Right, there is Jason McCarthy. And there is our race leader, Massimo Perini. You can just see the back end of the car was a little bit twitchy because it takes more than a lap to bring the tyres up to temperature, doesn't it, Tony?
Yeah, the first two drivers, so the front row, they really pulled away already at the start of the race, and seems like these two drivers are a little bit on their own, at least the first lap of the race. McCarthy wasn't really able to challenge Perina. Now it's up to the performance, and the prediction is like Perina's pace, it will be so strong that he's able to pull away, and the next few laps we will see that gap most likely opening a bit. And again, McCarthy is pulling away from Musso right now, so things are settling down at quite solid positions. Most of the drivers kept their place at the start, and again we had a quite clean start. One car spinning, but overall very clean start.
Yes, and that was weird. You know, as you say, the car just ran out of tarmac, didn't it? And once you're on the loose stuff, you're always going to go around. But what I do want to say is it was very, very good avoidance from all the other drivers as well, because it'd be very easy to get that wrong. As we can see, a potential overtake going on here, but it wasn't to be. And the car's running just a little bit wide as they exit that turn. So Sven Slova's getting the best of the starts then in terms of our Shell drivers. He's leading that Shell race ahead of Gregory Hopkins, and then it is Henry Hummel, Ferrari of Lake Forest driver. So Sven Slovas then, and here comes Gary Hopkins. You can see in the yellow and blue car, the driver of the 113 car, Gregory Hopkins for Foreign Cars Italia, banking a P3 yesterday and currently running P2 in the Ferrari 488 Challenge Race 2 of the weekend. Massimo Perina and Jason McCarthy, as you say, they've almost checked out already. They're both about 6 seconds up the road from Mark Musso, who's running in P3. I mean, that's an extraordinary over just a couple of laps to have built that margin, Tony. Yeah,
again, Perina's pace is just incredible. Last lap he was over a second quicker than anybody else, and after McCarthy everybody is way behind. So these two drivers are on their own, and Perina 125.6 on lap 2 was incredible.
What I should make mention of, and what we sometimes don't, or I don't, is the fact that these cars are equal. They're all the same. And, you know, yes, you can make, your teams can make different adjustments to setups and things like that, but actually the cars start as exactly the same. So it's down to setup changes, drivers' ability, and drivers like different forms of setups, and that's what makes the difference in terms of the pace that you can see. I mean, but for all intents and purposes, the cars are identical.
Yeah, exactly. One makes serious. The most important thing is the driver, the skill level and the speed of the driver, together obviously with the team and engineer to decide which directions to take with the setup, and also how to fix those possible issues that you have in the practice sessions prior to the race weekend, and try to just improve the pace on a single lap with new tires, but then also the race pace. You put more fuel and try to understand how the behavior of the car changes, and you can even adjust a little bit different setup for the qualifying and then the race itself. So there is a lot of options. If outside the cars look identical, there is a lot of different ways for teams to adjust, work on the cars. And obviously the basic idea of the race car is you have a setup sheet, and it would be nice if the numbers match what you actually have on the car to the setup sheet. So that's often even the basic idea. If you have the car line properly, the toe is where it supposed to be, and everything else, so most likely you will have a well-performing race car.
This is the fight that's going on for P3 between Mark Musso and Logan Broughton, then the Ferrari of Ontario driver. And here you can see, well, this is Gregory Hopkins going for the move on the inside line there, and I have to say that's not somewhere where ordinarily you would necessarily think that an overtake is going to work. But he's done it and puts himself up into that P1 position, having lost the lead of the race to Gerdas Venslovas early on. I don't know whether we didn't see the shot quite early enough, whether Venslovas maybe made a mistake going into the final turn, but whatever happened, Gregory Hopkins was able to go through, and he picks up that P1 place in the Shell drivers right now.
Yeah, what happens often in Laguna Seca is coming into that last turn. If you get next to another driver, there was still the chance that the driver that was overtaking just turn into the overtaker, but there was a little bit of collaboration, and this is the way to do it. But again, tight spot, and in Laguna often you need to be decisive. If you go for that overtaking maneuver, the worst thing is at the last moment you try to back off, and that's when the front ends touch the rear tire and the other car goes spinning. So little side by side, door to door contact we accept here in the commentary. So
yeah, we do.
Yeah,
we
so
like that.
yeah, so when you go for that overtaking, take it all the way. If you try to back off last moment, that's normally when the contacts happen.
Well, I rather think that Gregory Hopkins was the king of the late breakers going into that final turn. And he made it. He did exactly as you've just said. Is what you've got to do. You've got to be utterly committed to it, and he was utterly committed to it and made the move count. Here we can see another battle that is going on here, and just can't quite get the momentum to get right alongside. And going into this, it's Eric Pan and Omar Balkasoon. The Ferrari Beverly Hills and Ferrari of Fort Lauderdale drivers there who are battling over that P8 position, and Mark Musso has had the attentions of Logan Broughton behind him for since the start of the race. But again, good driving from Mark Musso, defending this P3 position from Logan Broughton, who's taken a look at the inside there. And what he's doing is filling the screen of Mark Musso full of his all-white 488 Challenge Evo to really harry Mark Musso. But Mark Musso driving very well and just pointing the car in the right direction and placing it precisely on the tarmac where he needs to deny any opportunity to Logan Broughton to find a way through. Cars run through the corkscrew, the famed turns here, 8 and 8A at the Laguna Seca Raceway, and Mark Musso then continuing to hold on to this P3 place while Massimo Perina and Jason McCarthy just check out up the road quite some distance away, it has to be said. So for the moment, Logan Broughton then just eases off a little bit, and often what happens with drivers when they're consistently trying to overtake is they might take a lap or two just to recover and just think about it again and redesign your strategy in terms of overtaking, just to give you a bit of breathing space, thinking and almost lulling the driver that you're attacking into a false sense of security, as Logan Broughton tried to going into that turn 2. Didn't pay off because Mark Musso retains that P3 position. And the gap between them is merely a tenth in terms of pace, so there is no question about it. They're both on equal terms in terms of pace, but got to find a way by, and thus far Logan Broughton has not been able to do that in the number 76 car. So Logan Broughton, who was on the podium yesterday for P3, just missed out on the podiums with a P4 and a P5 at the Circuit of the Americas, and he's he'd very much like to be back on the podium today. Let's see if that is achievable for him. So the yellow stripped the top of the windscreen cars are Trofeo Pirelli drivers, and the yellow strips across the top of the windscreen are Shell drivers in this Ferrari Challenge 488 race, the 179 car there of Mitchell Green for Ferrari of Westlake, running in P4, chasing down Richard Pineda, the Ferrari of Washington driver, who is P3 currently as they climb uphill. It really is a roller coaster here, and you can see the progression chart on the left-hand side of the screen in terms of drivers that have made good right at the start of the race. John Rosenbacher moving up some 4 places, which is very impressive. This is Richard Pineda then, driver of the 152 car, as Logan Broughton and Mark Musso swap places, or do they, as Mark Musso comes back here and, well, gets the perfect switchback, because that means that all the effort that Logan Broughton had brought to that overtake counted as naught. Now, whether we didn't quite see the start of that overtake manoeuvre, whether Mark Musso made a slight error, I don't think that's likely, because Mark is a pretty steadfast driver. But in any event, Logan Broughton thought he'd sealed that P3. Oh, no, you don't, said Mark Musso, and he shut the door and came back at him. Brilliant stuff, Tony.
Yes, very hard but clean racing going into turn 2. Broughton was inside, but he overshot the corner. He couldn't get the car turning quickly enough, and then Mark Musso was able to regain his place back. But I think this fight is not over. It's going to continue, and we'll see some more action soon.
Let's take a look at the replay then, Tony. Here it comes. So tracking him. Goes to the inside and doing exactly as you said, remained absolutely committed, but couldn't quite scrub the speed off.
Yeah, he tried to outbrake. He braked a little bit too late, because sometimes when you do the overtaking, you are able to, you should stop the car and slow down the car at the same place more or less than the other driver. You don't really need to outbrake him that much, and he just went a little bit too deep and he couldn't stop the car. For sure he was using everything that was available from the gearbox to have the slowdown, going down the gears aggressively, but he just couldn't make it.
Impressive for me in that, though, was Mark Musso kept his cool, didn't he?
Yeah.
And, you can see just how hard Logan Broughton is pushing. Now, that has cost him in terms of being close to Mark Musso. And you can see he's just getting a little bit ragged.
Yeah, he's been charging quite hard from the start of the race, and again, the tires with the 488 Evo, the tires are quite sensitive, and the tire wear, you need to be aware of the race distance you need to do. And Broughton, with his driving style, he's been on and charging on Musso and trying to see that overtaking opportunity. So we saw him sliding around already 3-4 corners and a couple of mistakes there.
Well, we can see the Joe Sposato car ahead of Richard Pineda and Mitchell Green, which is where we're at right now. So there you can see the 152 car of Richard Pineda, which is the middle of these three cars. Now, the first car there you can see is the red car of Joe Sposato. He is a Pirelli driver. And then the next two cars are the Shell drivers. They are running P3 and P4 respectively. So there they are. And the 152 car of Richard Pineda then taking victory yesterday, and taking it to a Pirelli driver right now, and have to say, done it, but that was close, Tony.
Whoa, what a tight line inside into turn 9, and I was expecting a little contact around the apex, and now there's more action, more overtaking, side by side into last turn.
Fair play to Joe Sposato there, who gave racing room. It could have been so easy to close the door and slam dunk.
Yeah, especially the previous one at turn 9. If you just closed the door, there would have been some contact. So interesting places to overtake, but you need also a little bit of collaboration if you can have in the overtaking situations, and great racing.
We've not seen much of our race leader, but can I just say, Tony, that in the space of less than half the race duration, he has built up a margin of 11 seconds.
There's been a contact.
That has been a contact. You can see the wheel pointing in the wrong direction there, and that's the 125 car that is in strife. So, you can see there something is broken on the steering of that car. So Ben Gadenzi, unfortunately, beached in the gravel. And we'll doubtless get a replay of how that happened and why that happened in due course. But that has taken Ben out of the race and beached in the gravel trap. So Ben Gadenzi in strife then. We'll see what race control decide to do about that car, because there's no escaping from that. Once you're beached into the gravel trap does the job that it's supposed to, and that is to slow the car down and actually make sure that you're not getting out of that. And the only way you can do that is to just keep your foot in, but there was no chance of doing that on that occasion because it looked like some component had broken. Here comes Logan Broughton then, who's recharging and re-energizing this fight with Mark Musso for P3 in Trofeo Pirelli. And Logan Broughton has thrown almost everything at this in his quest to get by Mark Musso. He's done it once, but then Musso was able to get the switch back straight away because Logan brought too much speed into the corner. So now we go to a full course yellow, and the safety car is out, which doesn't surprise me, Tony. And so all of a sudden, Massimo Perina, who'd built up a very nearly 12-second margin, we'll see that margin go away again. And there you can see the car is stricken in the gravel. Now, the recovery teams have worked really, really quickly here at Laguna Seca all weekend long. Not that we've had that many reasons for them to be put to use, but undoubtedly they are going to have to recover that Ben Gadenzi car.
Yeah, the car is located outside the turn 3. I think the race director was was evaluating the situation for a while to see how dangerous is the spot where the car is right now, but I think they had no option to clear the gravel trap and have the track back to safety, and the car is now here on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
Between turns 3 and 4.
I mean, in fairness, as racing drivers, your relationship with the race director is sometimes fractious, because sometimes decisions are made that you wouldn't necessarily agree with. And I'm sure, Tony, in your illustrious racing career, disagreed with a race director on a number of times. But what I will say is every race director has the driver safety at the heart of their decision making and their thinking, because driver safety is of paramount importance.
Yeah, that is true. There's different situations where you can sense that the big brother is controlling and also making you race in a safe environment, especially with the really hard rain, low visibility. The calls that are in hands of race director are very important, and those in my career have been the key moments, like when you feel like you need to go but you don't really have the safety to go. I've struggled, but overall then some disagreements with the race directors happened mainly earlier in my career, and later on maybe we became friends. And it took a few years for me to send the Christmas cards, but eventually I did send them. So
what the Ferrari Challenge do, which I think is a really, really good thing, is that very often drivers like yourself act as a driver advisor in race control, so that actually you can see things from a racing director's perspective and a racing director can see it from a racing driver's perspective. To my knowledge, I'm not sure that it happens with other series, but certainly in the Ferrari Challenge, you know, yourself, Giancarlo Fisichella, Davide Rigon, all sorts of drivers have been up there in race control and been a driver advisor.
Yeah, it is true. We can help at the race control when they're making the decisions, and we can say our opinion, and they will evaluate also from driver's side the situation. It's not always by the rule book, meaning that different situations happening really quickly, and just having a driver's view on things, it helps. But other thing as well, I think in Ferrari Challenge is very nice. We have both days. We have 2 days of racing. We have both days the driver's briefing. If race director or steward saw something day 1, they can bring it up day 2. And I found this platform also that we have some responsibility to tell these drivers how to do, how to behave. Look, this was not a good behavior. We don't want to see this in racing, because we need to remember not all the drivers have a huge amount of experience. So also some guidance in the different situations, mainly in the race, overtaking, whose fault, how the reaction is after that, and then often everything is solved and handshaking after that.
Absolutely, and it makes for a better product at the end of the day. And
yes,
of course,
the target is to get everybody happy out of the circuit after the race weekend, so that's the main target.
Massimo, sorry, I'm only laughing because you said in the early days of my career, I can imagine you stomping up to the race control office saying that wasn't a track limit.
Even once with Nigel Mansell in Silverstone, and that wasn't a good idea.
Oh, thanks for sharing those fantastic moments. Right, Massimo Perina is our leader ahead of Jason McCarthy and Mark Musso in Trofeo Pirelli. For the Shell drivers, Gregory Hopkins from Gidas Venslovas and Richard Pineda, they are the top 3 in the Shell drivers. We are behind the safety car in this full course yellow to recover the stricken car of Ben Gadenzi. And once that is recovered, we will go back to racing. We're going to have about 10 minutes plus a lap if we were to go back to racing now, which isn't going to be the case because the safety car is still out there. Until the lights are extinguished in the safety car, then we won't go back to racing. And until that car is recovered and everything is put back to being the right way, we will only go back to racing at that point. I remind you that after this, we head off to Montreal, where we support the Formula One Grand Prix. That's the next round of the Ferrari Challenge, but for us this is a real highlight this weekend here in California, because it is Ferrari Racing Days, where Formula One has made an appearance here at Laguna Seca, because we have one of the F1 Clienti cars here as well around this circuit, in addition to the FXX programs cars, or the XX programs I should say, including the FXX and the FXXK. And not only that, the Club Competizione GT cars as well. And actually, Tony, seeing those GT cars around this Laguna Seca Raceway, which indeed you have piloted on a number of occasions, is absolutely awesome. An old school circuit, as we have said in previous broadcasts, which makes any victory really, really rewarding, and makes any mistake very, very difficult, because it will bite you. So here we can see Perina and McCarthy and Musso and Logan Broughton and Michael Porter. In fact, all of the cars then behind the safety car. We're going to get at least another lap behind the safety car, and the time is ticking down, so we're down to 8.5 minutes plus a lap to run. So mix of Pirelli and Shell drivers. And there you can see the recovery of the car, and I must say credit to all the volunteer marshals, of course, that ensure that we can enjoy this wonderful, wonderful sport that we love so much, motor racing, and also credit to the recovery teams, who I think here, Tony, at Laguna Seca have worked really, really well.
Yeah, they've done a really good job, being reactive, getting those damaged cars cleared quickly, and I think as the line of drivers is now going past that area where the car was stuck in the gravel, I think next time by we might be going green. Okay. At least we are close.
Yes, I think we are close, and there we can see the car is recovered. It's on the flatbed. It will be taken away. Thankfully, the recovery teams have not been needed very often this weekend. Such is the credit of our driver base across all our categories that have been racing, as we look at the 113 car and the 133 car there of Matthew Dalton, the all-orange car that we can see, currently running P6 in the Shell category. Ferrari Challenge, Pirelli and Shell drivers making up the grid of these 488 cars here for the Ferrari Racing Days weekend, in the final competitive race of the weekend, before we consider the next round.
Yeah, on top of the screen, the truck with the recovered vehicle was moving already, so now it just depends where they can get that truck out of the track, and I think we are close. It's either this lap or the next one. We
yes.
go green.
And they will reach a point where we can still see the lights illuminated on the safety car. There reaches a point where the race director will say, no, we're too late. The lights have gone out. So, Tony, you called that absolutely correctly, because you don't need to get a complete lap behind the safety car. If the race director feels that the safety car can get out of the way and we can get the race back on again, he will do that as quickly as he can, and that's precisely what he has done. So by the time we reach the start-finish line, we are going to have, in my estimation, around about 5.5 minutes of racing plus one lap to do. So safety car peels off then, and here is our race leader, Massimo Perina. He will get this restart underway. It's his responsibility to control the pace of this restart. And there you can see the green flags flying, and it wasn't far out in my timing. It's going to be just over 5.5 minutes plus one lap. It's another opportunity for Jason McCarthy, potentially heading into turn number one, as he tries to stick with Massimo Perina. And there you can see he's certainly closer than he's ever been, and the reason for that is the safety car intervention. But once Massimo Perina is gets into his groove again, Jason McCarthy's going to find it very, very difficult to stick with him, as indeed was the case from the original start of the race. It's also another reset for Logan Broughton, potentially, for that P3 place that he was chasing Mark Musso for. So as the cars then do and get going again following the full course yellow. I remind you, it's Gregory Hopkins leading from Gideon Svenslovas and Richard Pineda in the Shell drivers, and there is the leader in that Shell category as Massimo Perina continues to lead in Trofeo Pirelli, and we go back to racing with exactly 5 minutes plus one lap to be run in this Ferrari Challenge 488 race.
Yeah, behind safety car the tire pressures go down, and you could see Perina was struggling a little bit getting that car turned in turn two, and actually McCarthy was really, really close, and it took a few corners before Perina was able to pull away from P2 driver Jason McCarthy. And based on what we've seen in Circuit of the Americas, what we've seen this weekend, most likely Massimo Perina will have more pace and will pull away. We have 4.5 minutes on the clock, but I haven't seen a real overtaking maneuver, and this fight has been going the whole race.
Yes, Logan Broughton was taking a look at the inside, and then right royally Mark Musso went bang and closed the door and emptied the gap that Logan Broughton was targeting.
Yeah, he opened it once, and I think he learned the lesson. So.
But also coming into that battle now, we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that There you can see the Mark Musso car. Then it's Logan Broughton, but then Michael Porter is on them as well now, and Michael Porter is lining up Logan Broughton here. So all of a sudden, where Broughton has had it all his own way in terms of attacking the car in front of him, all of a sudden he's going to have to think about defending as well now, Tony.
Yeah, Broughton made another mistake. He dropped the wheel exit of turn 4 and he lost a little bit of ground. But there are areas on track where he's really strong, like coming out of turn 6 up the hill to corkscrew. He's closing again on P3 driver Musso. So this will be a tight battle. There is 3.5 minutes on the clock, and you can see the black stripes on the track, on the surface. Really, really charging hard with this Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo.
This has been probably one of the most exciting battles in this race, and it has been the race for P3 in Trofeo Pirelli. Mark Musso has held his own, but he's come under intense pressure from Logan Broughton, and now Michael Porter is joining in the party as well. There you can see, once again, Logan Broughton will try and track Mark Musso going into turn 2. He'll go through the kink, which is turn number 1, and there you can see, king of the late breakers, Logan Broughton hard on the brakes, but Mark Musso's just cool, calm and collected, Tony, and sometimes that's absolutely what's needed. Just keep it calm.
Yeah, if Mark wants to hang in the P3 place, he needs to really be careful in turn 2 to open that line, because again he was going a little bit towards the right side of the track, and that opened up almost a gap for Broughton. So it will be interesting to see if Mark can keep this together.
Well, thus far, he has been able to do so. Will he be able to hold on? We've got, what, 2.25 minutes plus a lap to do. Mark Musso then in P3. Being utterly
on the edge of the track.
Logan Broughton is really pushing hard here and maintaining the pressure now through the corkscrew once again. And now it was this. Oh, as we see another car, unfortunately, has made contact with the barriers. That looked like the 162 car to me of Stephen Chen. But Stephen gets it going again, and well done to Stephen Chen. How did that happen?
Yeah, this is coming into turn 5. It's just completely off the line, and then even dropped the rear right tire onto the gravel and just couldn't control the car. He tried to stay on throttle. He should have backed off a little bit more and take the car back to control.
Fair enough. And here we can see once again Logan Broughton trying again and again and again, and well, Mark Musso he's just soaked up this pressure and dealt with it very, very creditably, in my opinion. It's Perina from McCarthy, and then this battle, which is Musso, Broughton and Michael Porter almost on the back of them as well. For the Shell drivers, it's Gregory Hopkins from Vetslovas and Panida. They are the 1, 2, 3 in that category. Brilliant driving that we're seeing in the 488 Challenge Evos then, and a brilliant race with only just under a minute and 1 lap remaining in this Ferrari Challenge 488 race. Live from Laguna Seca, the last of our racing action over the course of the weekend.
Another car off.
We just saw Steve Blevitt before we saw, is this car?
Is this Broughton? No.
Yes, well, I wondered that as we zoom in. Can we see? It is the no, it's the
22.
It's Michael Porter who was on the battle, who was in the battle, and he was trying to get on terms with Logan Broughton. So let's see it again in replay, Tony. This is what happened. So Michael Porter was trying to drive into this battle.
There's the dirt from the previous car that came back to the track, and he brought the gravel to the line, what he was losing, and he just lost the right-hand side grip. And you see the gravel and he went over there, and that's what sent him to a spin.
Wow. So that was just as a consequence of what happened earlier on then. Wow. So that's changed the face of things in terms of Logan Broughton. He can refocus his efforts at getting by Mark Musso, but to be fair, Mark Musso's just held on to this so well. If he's soaked up this pressure for as long as he has, surely he can maintain it, because we're on the final lap now.
Can I put another bet on corkscrew?
Of course you can, Tony. Of course you can.
Let's see what happens now.
Okay. Well, Massimo Perina, 3 seconds to the good in the lead of the race. Then it is Jason McCarthy and Mark Musso. And here is Mark Musso and Logan Broughton. So Tony Villander's prediction is the corkscrew. I don't think he's quite close enough, is he, Tony?
He's not close enough. But it has been a great battle between these two drivers, and the great thing is that Proton overtook him already once, and then Musso came back. So it has been a battle for a whole 30 minutes.
One person that hasn't had to battle too much is this man, Massimo Perina. Then it's another textbook drive from the Ferrari of Seattle driver who can see the checkered flag once again being waved atop his car as he takes victory in Trofeo Pirelli in the 488s. Well done to Massimo Perina. Well done to Jason McCarthy taking P2. And here for our Shell drivers is Gregory Hopkins then. For Foreign Cars Italia, he too will await the checkered flag, and he sees it waved, and he takes victory for the Shell drivers ahead of Guido Svenslovas and Richard Pineda, who should take P2 and P3 within that class. Hats off to these two drivers who gave us great entertainment during the course of this race. It could have gone so horribly wrong, but for Massimo Perina, Tony, 4 out of 4.
Yeah, that is very impressive. The qualifying, the race starts, restarts, everything, the pure pace he has, the confidence of this young man is impressive. For sure, it's quite easy to say that he will have a great season in 488, and maybe I'm already curious to see him in Pirelli with the 296.
Yeah,
because there is hot stars and very, very impressive start for his season.
You're absolutely right. Well done to Massimo Perina, and well done to Gregory Hopkins as well. So the 488 Challenge race done, and dusted cars will make their way back to the Parc Ferme area right now. And, well, of course, the big podium celebrations to come for the drivers, which are always well received and well liked. But all the racing action for these drivers has been done, and fair play to all the drivers then for working so hard across the course of the weekend and delivering us some noteworthy racing, that's for sure. I've really enjoyed it. Well done to all those that are victorious, but well done also to all the other drivers as well, because without them we wouldn't have the racing that we enjoy so much. So we can see the cars now into the pit lane, and yeah, we have there have been some moments of Tony Verlander inhaling breath with such volume because, you know, drivers have really tried, haven't they?
Yeah, you could clearly see that with the 296, this is the second race weekend, so more mileage, more testing done, and drivers are taking more risks. They're getting more confidence with their race car. Few single occasions where the driving standards were not 100% where I agreed, but overall another great weekend of racing. Difficult task for the drivers. Yesterday's qualifying was on a cold, wet track, and again today we had a beautiful weather. So these four race starts in the beginning of the season, they have given us all the conditions, different winners, drivers that with a lot of work has really stepped up their game, and Eric Marston is one of the drivers that is really been impressive to see his dominance this weekend, and obviously this young man with the 488 Evo, Massimo Perina.
Let's get the confirmation of the results then of that 488 challenge race as Massimo Perina is embraced by members of his team. Here we can get the confirmation then. Massimo Perina taking the win, 3.6 seconds to the good over Jason McCarthy and Mark Musso, holding on to that P3 place ahead of Logan Broughton, Brad Falver, Frank Szczesniak and Eric Pan. Gregory Hopkins victorious for the Shell drivers ahead of Omar Balkasoon, Guido Svenslovas, and then it was Richard Pineda who is back on the podium but taking P3 on this occasion ahead of Matthew Dalton, Mitchell Green, Henry Hummel, Enoch Hurd. Then it was Joe Sposado, Joel Rosenbacher, Lance Corley and Brad Evans. They occupy the positions 11 through 19 ahead of Steve Blevett, Louis Peruskia, Dan Magnuszewski, Stephen Chen, Jeffrey Keel, Michael Porter, Ben Denzi, Bruce Cleveland and Bernard Gomez. Bernard Gomez didn't actually start the race, so that's the way it looks. And John McKenna was also a non-starter, so a big grid of cars and a full 30 minutes plus one lap of racing. And Massimo Perina, a very impressive and talented young man, is with Shea Adam now.
Gonna keep it going, keep the party going. Another perfect weekend. How nervous were you on that restart?
Fairly nervous. I had a pretty good indicator of how it was going to go, considering how yesterday went, so I just kind of kept my own, kept the heat in the tires, and drove my race.
What will you take from this weekend as what you most enjoyed from Laguna Seca?
Celebrating with the team. them making this job very easy. Not that it's a job, but more of a hobby. But they make it so enjoyable. They make going out and driving so much fun, especially winning.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I have to say they're lovely people. When I was with them earlier on, I was invited out to dinner, which was very nice. And well done to Massimo Perina. Let's take a look at the Drivers' Championship for the 488 and the Pirelli category. Massimo Perina a full 20 points ahead of Jason McCarthy. And then it's Mark Musso, P3. Logan Broughton, Frank Szczesniak, Eric Pan, Omar Balkasoon and Gray Falver then occupying the positions through to 8th place. Ahead of Brad Falver, Michael Porter, Joe Sposado, Gregory Hopkins and Bruce Cleveland, the 13 drivers in 488 Pirelli in the Drivers' Championship. So, yes, there we have it. Great job done by the drivers out there. Just a safety car. Let's take a look at the Shell points now. Gregory Hopkins then having taken victory. It's Gerda Sven Slovas who's still leading the points, 5 ahead of Matthew Dalton. Then it's Richard Pineda. He's going to be one to watch. He's P3 in the points now. Enoch Hurd, Henry Hummel, Joel Rosenbacher, Brad Evans and Stephen Chen. Stephen Chen P8 in the Drivers' Championship points on 83 points. Then it's Louis Peruschia, Dan Magnusewski, Steve Blevitt, Jeffrey Keel, Gary Ott, Gregory Hopkins, and Bernard Gomez then. They are occupying the positions through to 15 ahead of Lance Corley, Anthony DiCarlo, John Galazza, Ben Godenzi, Mitchell Green, and John McKenna. And our Shell winner then, Gregory Hopkins, making it a very, very good weekend for that family with Shay right now.
Yeah, just getting congratulated by Richard Pineda. Greg, you made it a perfect weekend for the Be Safe cars. What was it like to drive this thing to victory lane?
Oh, it's awesome. First time, first place finish, second race ever. Race weekend. It's been amazing. I need to thank my family. Couldn't do it without them, and thank God.
Was it a bit of survival out there through the race? Because it seemed like you had the pace.
Well, he was chasing me a little bit. Then once I made a space, I felt comfortable out there.
Congrats on the first win. I'm sure it won't be the last.
Thank you very much.
Well done. A very happy man indeed. And you can hear the applause rounding out for him. Well done to all the drivers, and thank you to all the drivers as well. Of course, from here in Laguna Seca, we will be heading off to Montreal in support of Formula One for the next round of the Ferrari Challenge. And on behalf of my kind colleagues, Shay Adam and Tony Verlander alongside me, thank you so much. And from me, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you in Canada. Bye-bye for now.